Hello everyone, and welcome back to learning how to set up Tableflow with Databricks on Azure. So this part 2 of the video is going to be a little bit more experimental. This is something I'm even still getting used to myself. It does require a couple intricate steps of adding permissions and things like that. So please bear with me. Make the video in 2 times speed if that's something that helps you. But I'm going to be following my notes, and hopefully this is helpful to you as it was helpful to me when I finally got it working. So in step 1, we actually enabled Tableflow on this topic called stock trades. And we can see now that it is syncing data into my container called Tableflow. If we drill down in here, we will see that there is data in Parquet format and there is metadata. And before I do anything else, I just noticed that we have not enabled Tableflow with Delta format. So we need to do that before we do anything else, because that is all that works with Databricks, at least for now. And it was just that simple. So we enabled it with Delta, and now in a few seconds we should start to see the Delta format appear here as well. But while we wait for that to happen, the next thing we need to do to give Databricks access to this data is we actually have to create what's called an access connector for Azure Databricks, and we'll do that on Azure itself. So we're going to navigate to our homepage on Azure. We'll click on Create a Resource, and we will search for Access Connector for Azure Databricks. There it is. And it's right here. We'll click on Create. And I'm going to give this my same resource group that I've been working with. I'm going to also give this a unique name because I've done this a couple times and I want to make sure that I'm using this specific one. So I'll call this JB Access Connector, and I'll just add a number at the end that I can remember. So we'll call this 1, 2, 3, 4, just so we know the one that we're working with and not confusing it with a different one. And I'll go on and click Create. Now we need to give a couple roles to this access connector so that Databricks can actually go in and read the data from our storage account container. So once this deployment is complete, there we go. We can actually go in and go over to access control, and we're going to grant 2 different role assignments to this access connector. So the first one is going to be one we've seen before called Storage Blob Data Contributor. We'll select that, click Next, and we'll go over to Managed Identity. Because this is a managed identity that we're working with, we will select the access connector for Azure Databricks. And let's look for that one we just created here. There it is, JB Access Connector 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll click on Select, Review, and Assign. Now the next one we need to add is called Storage Queue Data Contributor. And there it is. We'll do the exact same thing. Select the Manage Identity. Go to Access Connector for Azure Databricks and select the one we just created. Review and Assign. And that should be it from the Azure side of things. Now we need to go over to Databricks and create a storage credential that will use this access connector in order to access our data in the storage account. So what I will do is I'll come to my Azure Databricks web portal, and I'll click on this gear right here, and I'll select credentials. Now I'm going to create a credential, and I'm going to call this, this is an Azure Managed Identity, and I'm going to call this JB Credential Access 1234, just so we know it's the same one. Now it asks for something called the Access Connector ID, and this is something that you need to get from the Access Connector itself. So I'll come over to our Access Connectors, come to this one, and it's this resource ID right here. So you'll provide this right here, and we will click on Create. So now we actually have to use this credential in what Databricks would call an external location. So let's go back to our catalog and click on External Locations, and we will create an external location. Let's call this one JB External Location 1234. And we're going to use ADLS storage. And now we need to provide the URL to our container. Now, this is not like Amazon S3 where it just has a simple URL that you can copy. At least I haven't found a way. The best way to do it is just to remember the syntax of abfss:// and then we need to get the container name. So let me find that again. The container name is Tableflow, and then the @ symbol, and then the storage account name. And the storage account name is right there. Make sure there's no spaces. .dfs.core.windows.net. And you need to put a / here. I found problems if you don't put the /, so just make sure you do that. And then the storage credential we want to use is the one we just created in the previous step. So it's going to be that JB Credential Access 1234. And now this part is pretty important. When I click on Create, you will see that these two steps, the file events, provision, and teardown, failed. But we're going to actually force this to create anyway, because when we test the connection, you'll see that we don't actually need this in order to access the storage account. So the next thing I want to do is create a catalog in Databricks for the Tableflow sync process to sync with my catalog. So let's go ahead and create a catalog. I'll call this JB External Catalog 1234. Keeping with that naming convention, we'll keep this as a standard type. Now the storage location, we want to make sure we choose the correct storage location that we just created. So this should be... Okay, I just needed to refresh the page, that's all. So let's go ahead and recreate this. External Catalog 1234. And we'll just leave this as the root. You can, of course, give a subpath if you don't want to import all of the data. But we'll go ahead and click Create. And we can view the catalog. And right now we haven't enabled Tableflow, so we don't see any specific information here about our Tableflow data. But I'm going to preemptively grant some permissions here. Actually, before I do that, we need to create a service principal. So let's go ahead to the top right. I'll click on Settings, Identity and Access, and create a service principal. Let's go ahead and add a service principal. Again, this is what Tableflow is going to use to talk to your Databricks catalog. Let's select Add New. We'll select Databricks Managed. Let's call this JB service principal 1, 2, 3, 4, and click add. And I'm going to give this one some permissions. Self-assign permissions right here. And we'll give this basically full access. Now the next thing I need to do is generate a secret. This is going to be used when we configure Tableflow to sync the catalog. And let's just sync this for 2 weeks. And I just copied the client ID and secret off screen. I'll edit that so you can't see it, but either way, it'll be expired in 14 days. So now we want to make sure we have the right permissions on everything we just created to make sure Tableflow has no problem accessing all of the resources. So let's go back to our credential. Just check the permissions here. I want to grant my service principal all privileges. And at the same time, I'll grant myself the same thing. Now let's do the same thing for my external location. Permissions. Looks like I already did that. Yep. And now we need to go over to our catalog and grant some permissions. So this piece is important because we need to give external use schema as well as other privileges like the ability to create a schema and other things to that service principal that Tableflow is going to use. And let's choose this one. And I will just say all privileges to make it simple and hit confirm. And it looks like I forgot to add the external use location to this external location for my service principal. This is a critical piece. So go ahead and add that here. And hit confirm. There we go. And now we are ready to enable Tableflow's catalog integration sync from Tableflow. So let's go back to Confluent Cloud for this Tableflow topic. We'll navigate to the Tableflow tab. Let me just move this up so you can see everything I'm doing. I'll hit add integration. Databricks Unity, I'll give this a name, like Databricks Unity Catalog Integration. It only supports a Delta format for right now. We'll hit continue. And now don't get tripped up with things like the Databricks workspace URL. I find the easiest way to make sure that this is consistent is coming over to where you provisioned this Databricks workspace and grabbing the URL right here. So I'll paste that in there. And I'm going to copy and paste those client ID and secret that I copied off screen. And let's make sure we have the catalog name correct. JB external catalog 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll hit on continue and launch. Now, hopefully this is successful, and when we come back in a few seconds, I can show you data in Databricks that was materialized from my Tableflow topic with all of the schema and all of the nice things that come with Tableflow. Okay, and it shows as connected, so that's a big relief for me that we did everything correct. So let's go back to Databricks and check out our external catalog. We can actually see the cluster ID is here, and we actually see our topic. So this is all of our schema that came from the topic, came from Tableflow, and we could even go in and sample the data if we wanted to. We could run SQL queries against this data in Databricks. We can interact with it in any read fashion that we would like. Of course, if we wanted to manipulate this data even further, we could copy this to a new table in Databricks and modify it further. Hopefully this gets you across the finish line of integrating with Databricks. And I am not a Databricks expert by any means, so please comment below if there are more efficient ways of doing this. But really hope this was helpful to you. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching.